Good day. I will be reporting about the ethics of climate change. Climate change is a long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in a place. Climate change could refer to a particular location or the planet as a whole. Climate change may cause weather patterns to be less predictable. What causes climate change?
We're going to kick this off with some basic science, so bear with me, because this is important. Look at this graph. These are the levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere over hundreds of thousands of years. But this spike in carbon dioxide at the very end, that took off during the Industrial Revolution. We started breaking CO2 records in 1950, and we haven't stopped since. Why? Well, scientists say there's a 95% chance that human activity is the cause. We've been burning more and more fossil fuels like oil and coal, which release CO2, to power our homes, factories, airplanes, and cars. There's also a lot more of us. The global population has tripled in the past 70 years. And we're consuming more products from animals that release another pollutant called methane. So all those gases are released into the air, and when sunlight gets into the Earth's atmosphere, some of the heat gets trapped, and the planet gets warmer. That's why they call it the greenhouse effect. But the concern is not that the Earth is getting warmer. It's that it's happening far too quickly.
But it's actually the warmest temperature on Earth since the last ice age, since 10,000 years ago.
The UN says that right now, our world is about 1 degree hotter than pre-industrial times. That's around the year 1800, which is okay. In fact, the UN says if we warm by 1.5 degrees before the end of the century, we should be fine. The UN even says 2 degrees would probably be all right. But again, the problem is speed, because right now we're on track to hit 1.5 degrees in only 10 years. And if we don't slow that warming down, it could mean catastrophe within my lifetime, and maybe yours too. And we're already getting a taste.
What are the noticeable effects of climate change? The unexpected weather patterns can make it difficult to maintain and grow crops in regions that rely on farming because expected temperature and rainfall levels can no longer be relied on. Climate change has also been connected with other damaging weather events, such as more frequent and more intense hurricanes, floods, downpours, and winter storms. These are simple human activities that we do every day without minding that it could add up to the problem of climate change. Fossil fuels are burned in order to create the energy which drives all of these activities. This puts greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and those gases contribute to the warming of the planet. The trouble with climate change is that our usual paradigm collapses under the weight of certain complexities. These three aspects of complexities are the following: spatial, temporal, and theoretical in aptitude. Spatial. Relevant causes and effects and the agents behind them are spatially dispersed throughout the globe. Actions set in motion in one hemisphere have effects on the other side of the world. Second is temporal. Relevant causes and effects and the agents involved are temporally dispersed and smeared out in time as well as space. This means that it takes a while for our actions to be translated into noticeable effects of the climate. The little actions we undertake which keep us warm and dry and fed are what they are partly because of the choices made by people long dead. We didn't want to burn fossil fuels, but we are embedded in a culture set up to do so. We are stuck with a system when it comes to satisfying even our basic needs. The spatial and temporal smearing of actions and agency can be deeply confusing because sometimes moral responsibility depends conceptually on another set of responsibility, which is causal responsibility. If we know that an action is wrong, then all we need to know is that someone did it in order to conclude that they were responsible for something wrong. But in the case of climate change, all the little things that I do today might amount to nothing more than a negligible amount of damage to the atmosphere. Each act is nothing in itself. Each person does no obvious wrong, but together the results are catastrophic. The third complexity is theoretical inaptitude. Focus on one part of the problem and not of others. Lacks the wisdom and theory to cope with decisions that are felt today and not the long-term effects of the said actions. Our theoretical failure can lead to a moral failure. There are two thought experiments we can apply to the problems posed by climate change. First is the prisoner's dilemma, and second is the tragedy of the commons. The prisoner's dilemma. If everyone cooperates, then the least time is served overall. Individuals do what's individually rational. They can end up undermining what's best for everyone. Imagine that Bonnie and Clyde are arrested for bank robbery and placed brooding into separate cells. They face 10 years in prison if convicted, but the police, who are short on evidence, are willing to offer them a deal. They can confess, stitch up the other prisoner, and get themselves out of trouble. If one rats out the other and the other keeps quiet, the rat goes free and the other gets the full 10 years. If they rat each other out, they both get 5 years. If they both keep quiet, though there's nothing the police can do, and they are held only for a month on some lesser charge, they can confer. So, what should they do? While cooperating is the collectively rational thing to do for both prisoners, defection and betrayal is the individually rational thing to do. If everyone cooperates, then the least time is served overall. If individuals do what's individually rational, however, they can end up undermining what's best for everyone.